Welcome back. Today I'm going to turn this maple and walnut box. It's 3 inches tall and 2 inches in diameter. I did it out of 5 separate pieces. I have the 2 walnut rings here, maple in the center, inlay on top, and a little plug in the center. I've always enjoyed box turning, and recently I kind of got back into it. So all week I've been working on them. I did this one. It's out of madrona burl and walnut, and same thing, did a little plug on the inside. Actually, that's yew wood on the inside of that one. And I think that one's about 4.5 inches tall. I'll have to measure it, but yeah. And I also did this one with it's maple and walnut as well, but I put a paint chip inlay in the top of it. So at the end of the video, I'll talk a little bit more about the paint chips and where I got them and what it actually is. So let's go ahead and get started. The wood shop is sponsored by Robust Lathe, Easy Wood Tools, and ChefwareKits. Alright, I picked out a piece of maple, took it over on the bandsaw and knocked the corners off a little bit. So it's 4 inches long and about 3 inches in diameter. What I'm going to do is put a tenon down on this end. I'm going to true it up and shape the outside of the box. It's just going to be a cylinder, but I'm not going to use the whole piece. I'm only going to use about down into here, and then I'm going to use the rest of it for the little insert I'm going to do in the lid. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and dry sand this inside and out, and then I'll part it off and we'll make the top and bottom. Alright, I went ahead and sanded it inside and out. I got quite a bit of material down there, and it really only needs to glue on the bottom of it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up with 600 and some wax and oil. Okay, I just buffed it up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and part it off. There we go. Now I'm going to make the little insert for the top. Okay, I'm going to sand that and then I'll just part it off. I tried to make the walls parallel as I could so that I can make a little spot for it in the cap and put it in there. Alright, I just have a waste block and this piece of walnut, roughly 3 inches in diameter and about, I don't know, 1.25 inches or so thick. This is going to be the bottom. I'm just going to use hot glue. This is regular hot glue you get at the craft store. A little bit on there. Just trying to line it up where it's fairly close. Lock the tailstock down. And just put some pressure on it. So, takes, I don't know, a minute or so for that to set up. and be solid. So I'll wait for that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and true it up, and then I'll pull the tailstock away and use the box to fit it in there. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and recess the box down in there, just maybe 1/8 of an inch or so, enough for a little bead on the corner. Set up the calipers on that, and you don't need to do anything with, I'm going to knock that little nub off, but you don't need to do anything with that because you want it to have a good bite when you glue it on. So I'm just going to come in with the square cutter here. Alright, I'm just going to bring around that corner a little bit and then start bringing this down a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and dry sand this whole thing so that I don't get any oil on there and it'll glue together nicely. Pop in there just like that. Do that, and then we'll come back and part it off. And once you get the box glued into it, then I go ahead and finish the bottom of it. Same thing, I'm just going to bring the diameter down and then I'll come around to the front and start fitting the lid. I'm going to do basically the same thing. I'm going to come over here and fit the lid, and then in the center I'm going to put a little recess in there so I can grab it in the pin jaws and flip it around to do the insert in the top. I think both the cameras stopped, but I just brought the top around a little bit, so I checked the bottom there. And really, when you have this in the jaws and you're going to recess that thing in the top, you don't want to come close to those jaws. So there's my bottom right there, and I left myself maybe a little over 1/4 of an inch to do the insert on that. So I'm just going to come in with a parting tool and part it off. Now we can grab that with the pin jaws and flip it around and do the insert. There's the insert I made, so I'm just going to start making a little recess in there, and then we'll get that glued in. Alright, I'm just going to glue it in. Put it in there. Take a waste, just a piece of plywood. Bring this up. And just use that to press it right down in there. Alright, the glue's set up enough now. I'm just going to make a couple of passes across it and then sand it. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and sand that, and then I'll make a plug for the inside. I'm going to make the plug for the inside now. So I have my caliper set for the diameter. I'll put a little tenon back here, and this is going to be the face. I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to leave a little bit of a lip on it all the way around. So let's go ahead and work on that. Alright, same thing, went up to 600 and then put some of the beeswax and linseed oil on it. Just going to part it off here. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and clean up the bottom of the box, and I'm going to use some of the non-skid pad stuff here. Just kind of tuck it in there. And just be careful when you expand the jaws so you don't break it. Just be careful when you're doing this because it's not in there very tight. I'm going to bring the tailstock up and just give it a little bit of pressure until I can get the majority of this away, and I'm just going to cup it out. There we go, and again it's 3 inches tall and 2.5 inch diameter. This one's already sold, but I'm going to go ahead and put the other two up on eBay. This one here is Madrona Burl and Walnut, and it's 4 inches tall, a little over 4 inches tall by 3.5, I believe. I'll get the measurement up there. And then this one here is almost 4 inches by about 2 3/4, and again it's walnut and maple burl with the paint inlay on top. And the paint stuff, I've done a couple of videos on this, but I used to work for a truck manufacturer, and this is the overspray out of the paint booth. So I actually have some of this stuff on sale on my Etsy store, and mostly jewelry makers buy it. They make earrings and rings and cufflinks and stuff like that out of it, but it's kind of hard to get your hands on. They have some of it for sale on eBay, but they sell it by the ounce. It's pretty rare stuff and pretty expensive, so I just happen to have a lot of it because I worked there for 20 years, but it's overspray out of the paint booth, so it would build up on the racks. I would go along and cut it off and use it. I'll put a big picture up here so you can kind of see some of the detail, but that's all it is, just layers of overspray. It's I've sold some of it to some wood turners too, so I was thinking about maybe going on the Q&A channel, doing another video on how to turn it, because it's very brittle. It's not like acrylic. You can't just go at it. It needs to, you basically need to do like more of faceplate turning, come in from the center and just take very, very light cuts. It tends to chip, and also too, in the process of this, none of these layers got scuffed up. It's not like when they were doing a paint job on something, after you prime it, you would scuff it so the paint had something to bond to. This is, we were doing, when I got this, we were doing 114 trucks a day. So this stuff was literally just being run through the paint booth, through the oven, right back in with more parts. So it barely had time to dry before it was put back in there, but it wasn't scuffed, and that's why it's brittle and a little hard to turn. It's a little tricky. I made some pins and stuff out of it, but even the pins I've made, probably maybe 2 or 3 out of 5 make it, just because it tends to chip. So I probably, you know, if I see it start to chip, I'll put some CA glue on it or something and put it back together. But and I have on the Etsy store too, there's some jewelry pieces, but they're expensive because they're all drilled out and they're already cleared with actual automotive paint, but I don't have access to that anymore. So it's just kind of stuff I had from when I was working there, but that's why, because they have automotive clear on it. This one here, I just used ultra gloss on it. So I sanded it up to 600. Should probably, you know, maybe wet sand it. That would be better to do that, and then put the ultra gloss on it. It gives it a nice little shine, but it's nothing like automotive clear to get that gloss on it. But anyway, I'll have these 2 up for sale on eBay, and I'll put the link down below in the description. And again, if they don't sell, I'll put them up on my Etsy page, and there'll be a link down below to that too. All right, if this is your first time here, I have a new project video every Friday. I hope to see you there. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe.